We're here with Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley. Mr. O'Malley, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk to WMUC. The first question is, what's next for you? Is this your last campaign?
Oh, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Fortunately, we're all hands on deck and doing everything we can between now and the primary. Most of my campaigning for the remaining 8-9 days will be here in Maryland. Got one little trip to New Hampshire, and then it's here in Maryland. So I'm doing everything I can to help Anthony Brown. I'll be at metro stops and honking waves and all of that good stuff.
Right. How do you think his campaign's going? How do you think he's doing? Is he living up to the expectations you had for your lieutenant governor?
Yeah, well, he's already done that. He's exceeded my expectations as a lieutenant governor. I mean, he asked to work on really difficult issues, the higher education, healthcare, and also that piece of economic development that was the base realignment, which in Maryland we were big winners in that, and it was managed very well. We've extended healthcare coverage to 700,000 people, 300,000 of them before the Affordable Care Act was even passed. And no state's done a better job in holding down the cost of college tuition than we have here in Maryland. And Anthony's been there every step of the way. Some of the bigger stories on healthcare, people are only now starting to kind of wake up to, which is that we've moved all 46 of our acute care hospitals to global payments and have realigned the incentive process so that hospitals are rewarded for keeping people well and keeping them out of hospital beds instead of being paid like a hotel for how many bed nights you can fill up. And that's a pretty big deal. The common platform that we put together of health IT, as opposed to the website, the shopping website, but the health IT, the ability to share records, to hotspot, clusters of whether it's asthma or diabetes or congestive heart failure, and be able to target effort to those problems. That's all pretty revolutionary stuff. So, as far as the campaign goes, I think it's tough all over the country because we're certainly doing better overall than we were 6 years ago. But until we get wages moving up, it's going to be hard for any of us to conclude that, man, this is what progress really looks and feels like. So that's our quandary. And against that backdrop, every governor in every state is waging a campaign. And on the Democratic side, it's a campaign for a more balanced approach that allows us to expand middle-class earnings, middle-class opportunity, and to build our economy from the middle out. So I think we all have to work hard. Sometimes people look at Maryland from afar and think, oh, that's a really blue state. But the truth is, it's a bit of a mashup of several different regions in one state. And it was not too very long ago, 8 years, that we had a Republican governor.
Right. Well, what I think is really interesting about this race is a lot of the divisive cultural issues aren't at play because they've all been decided, whether it's same-sex marriage or the death penalty or marijuana to a certain extent. They're not really a big factor in this race. It's a lot of economic and tax issues. Do you think that's why it's getting close? I mean, some people would look at this race and say, in blue Maryland, Larry Hogan's 7 points behind. Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. On the weekend before the election in 2006, I remember being on this campus and shaking hands before a college park game. And right afterwards, somebody whispered to me that the polls coming out tomorrow morning from the Washington Post that has it tied, dead even. And I turned to Jim Rosenblatt, that senator, that he was with me at the time, after we had been hearing people saying, I'm with you, or other things, you. and I said, that feels right, doesn't it? And he says, yeah, it does. So we were tied on the eve of the election. So I think if you look where we were, I think Anthony's further ahead than I was either of the last two times. And that economic battle is one that we are unafraid of fighting. The truth of the matter is the only 4 years that Maryland underperformed Virginia in job creation were the 4 years of Ehrlich and Hogan, when every single day they were trashing Maryland and talking about how bad we are for business. For the last several years, we've been doing a lot better as a state, the highest median income in the nation, and from at least by the close of last calendar year, I know we outperformed Virginia and Pennsylvania from the depths of the recession on job creation, and we have the highest median income in the country, and we're making college more affordable instead of more expensive. So that's a longer argument than pro-gun, anti-gun, or those sorts of things. But I think even on some of those other issues, the reason why Anthony's further ahead than I was on the eve of my elections is because I think Larry Hogan's already proven himself to be pretty out of step on those issues. There's been a lot of dust up recently about the secret questionnaire he filled out for the NRA. I would think citizens would have to ask, what about us does he not trust? That he would tell them one thing and yet tell us in debates, oh, I was opposed to the gun safety legislation. It didn't go far enough. And in another debate, he said, I was opposed to it because it went too far. One thing's for sure. He got an A- on his questionnaire from the NRA, and yet he won't be square with people and tell them where he stands on it. But whether it's on that issue or marriage equality or others, Anthony Brown is far more in step with the mainstream of Marylanders who believe we're all in this together.
I don't want to hog all the questions, but I have one more for you. And that's, what's your reaction to, it seems like the Hogan campaign has tried to make this a referendum on you. You are brought up a lot in their debates and, in their appearances. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think you are in any way hurting Anthony Brown's chances?
Yeah, well, I think it comes with the territory. I think it comes with the territory. The truth of the matter is, because of the big financial mess that I was left by Ehrlich and Hogan, who was in charge of all of his political appointments, I had to make a lot of singularly unpopular decisions in order to not only maintain our AAA bond rating, but more importantly, build up the best public schools in America. And so I suppose Mr. Hogan's one rationale, I suppose his argument is he wants to lift up all of those singularly unpopular things and hope that people don't realize they were part of a larger effort to make our children winners in a changing economy. I think most Marylanders will conclude at the end of the day and come election day that we have improved the odds of our kids being able to succeed in a changing economy. Marylanders understand the connection between education and economic opportunity. In other words, that the more a person learns, the more a person earns, and the better that is for all of us. At least that's what they concluded 4 years ago. When they made all the same arguments 4 years ago, and we had yet to rack up some of the achievements in terms of the kudos on public school or college affordability, or the U.S. Chamber of Commerce naming us #1 for innovation and entrepreneurship, which I think is a pretty ringing endorsement of the totality of the choices, popular and unpopular, that we had to make.
Mr. O'Malley, in your 8 years as governor of the state of Maryland, what achievements would you say are you the most proud of, and what do you think the state has to look forward to?
Well, the things we've accomplished that have given me the greatest sense of satisfaction and sense of gratitude have been the strides we've made on improving outcomes for our kids, both educationally and also in reducing violence against children, and the number of kids that would lose their lives to violent deaths. The reforms we've made that have cut the out-of-home placements of kids in half. They haven't made big headlines, but what we've done to improve outcomes in the lives of children is the thing that I suppose gives me the greatest sense of satisfaction. And and some of those things have also involved the sort of environment, the waters and the air that we leave to our kids. So the work we've done on the Chesapeake Bay, I think, will be look back upon as a real turning point in the restoration of the Bay, because it was something that was emulated, or something that we not only did in Maryland, but it was emulated and throughout the Bay watershed. The things we've done on climate change, and frankly, a lot of the decisions at the time that appeared controversial, that let our kids know that there's dignity in every human being, and that every child's home deserves equal protection under the law, and that every child's potential needs to be developed to its fullest. And by those things, I'm talking about marriage equality, and I'm talking about the DREAM Act, and I'm talking about death penalty, I suppose, and the gun safety legislation. I think they're all part of the same great work.
Excellent. And you're out here on campus today rocking the vote, quite literally. You grabbed the guitar. Many of these students here will be voting in their first election upcoming. We've got 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-olds on campus. And so what are the most important issues that you think that are facing the students of that generation, and why should they go out and vote on the 4th?
Well, I think there is no progress without a job. And the sort of economy we have, whether it works for just a few of us or whether it works for all of us, those are the products of the choices we make as voters. I mean, we're not going to be able to reverse climate change. We're not going to be able to create more opportunities for our kids and fuller lives for our kids unless we improve our economy. And the votes we cast determine whether or not that happens. In a cynical age, I suppose it'd be easy to try to disconnect and pretend that there's nothing we can do about this. But the truth of the matter is, the choices we make determine what sort of economy we have. We can make choices that grow our economy from the middle out, that puts a growing middle class as the center of economic growth and acknowledges that truth, or we can follow the ill-advised decisions that got us in this mess in the first place. So I think that economic imperative, building an economy that works for all of us, is essential to all of the other progress we hope to make as a people.
All right. Now, there's such a great disparity between the platforms of the two parties, both nationally and you could argue here in the state of Maryland, given that there are some areas that are more red and some areas that are more blue. What do you think that in the political climate can be done to change things and so that we can have more of a middle ground and less of a gridlock?
I mean, I think we have to embrace policies I think the most important reason for embracing any policy is whether or not it works. And I think the more that Democrats, Independents, and Republicans support things that work to make our economy better, our air and our water cleaner, the sooner we'll get out of this rather gridlocked, polarized time. I mean, one of the big differences between these two candidates right now is on the minimum wage. Anthony Brown is in favor of increasing the minimum wage and helped us get it passed. And Larry Hogan is not. 70% of Republicans, I believe, support raising the minimum wage. So this is much more of this is an issue about our economy. It's not about ideology. Let us do the things that work, that move us all forward and create an economy that works for everyone. And in our state, fortunately, there's a lot of Republicans who do not subscribe to that separatist, self-defeating Tea Party prescription of a country of less that you see some in the other states have. So we have a lot of sensible people here that are Republicans, Independents, and Democrats, and that's why we've been able to make progress in a really difficult economic time.
Now, Mr. O'Malley, thank you very much for joining us here at WMUC. Let's end on a fun question. As a former mayor of Baltimore, lifelong Marylander, what's your insight on the Orioles this season?
Sure. I think the Orioles had a great season this season. I think they gave all of us a tremendous amount of joy and entertainment on the field. They played their hearts out, and I think next year they're going to come back even stronger.
Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Governor. Well, for Mr. Governor for a little while longer here on WMUC. You're listening to Punch and Pie with DJ Drew.